needs for you and layers. And Surat Muzammil Mudathir, not to go into, not to repeat what we've talked about over the last number of weeks, are two surahs that come together. They were revealed right at the beginning of the prophecy of the Prophet ﷺ. So you can already, just by knowing that, know that they're extremely important. But what they offer the Prophet ﷺ, there are two layers of practice that he's going to need. Right? The layer that is spiritual and for him, meaning the benefit of it is for his own self, for his own stability, for his mental wellness being, for his spiritual well-being. The مَا يَتَزَمَّلُ بِهِ, right? الْمُزَّمِّل. Tazammul is when you cover yourself with something that's touching your skin. It's right, it's contact, it's close to you. Ad-dithar, al-mudaththir, ad-dithar is what you wear on top, right? So that's what the Prophet ﷺ would say, Ansaru shi'ar wal nasu dithar. The Ansar are close to my heart. Shi'ar, again, another word for like a t-shirt, right? When nasu dithar, and people are the covering on top, meaning they're closer to me than anyone else. That's what he meant, nothing to do with the surah, but that's what he used that term for, right? So al-muzammil is what's on the inside, was for you. And al-mudaththir is what you're going to practice that's going to be more affecting other people and going to be connecting with other people. And outside of Islam, there's not much else left. That's pretty much all there is. And if you think about it, that's why the Prophet ﷺ was granted these two surahs. And he was called by his name at the beginning of both. His name, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nicknamed him as. Right? And no other prophet was called Al-Muzammil, Al-Mudaththir. That's very specific to him, because no other prophet had that experience, running down and feeling the way they felt and asking for what he asked for, alayhi salam. And so it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding him every time of that night. And never lose sight of that night, the night that you were chosen, the night that this began, and what this means for you. And so he called him by that name. And he, of course, chose these names to represent within the surah what the surah was going to do. So Ya al-Muzammil, the one who wanted something that was close, well, here's what's going to keep you close. And we went through the surah, and قُمِ اللَّيْلِ رَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ تَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. The 8 commands that are all very specific and very focused on your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fuel that your soul needs to be actually to be able to carry all of this, because it's a lot. Living your life, and this is one of the things that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis, is that He strengthens you so that you're able to carry Islam throughout your life, and you don't lose track of it, and you don't lose sight of it, and you don't lose motivation, and you don't end up failing. That's one of the dua you make all the time, because it's a burden. It's a lot of work. It requires a lot of discipline, a lot of self accountability and self honesty and change and you're holding yourself to to ethical standards. So it's not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. In order for that to work, and what are those things that you have to do? It's what Surat Al-Mudaththir talks about. Here's what you're going to do. Here's the standard you're going to hold yourself to all your life. But before we tell you the standard, here's what you have to do in order for you to be able to carry that to begin with. Like, you can't do any of this if you don't pray and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recite His book and devote yourself to Him and invocate Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't do these things, then it's going to be impossible for you to carry this standard. It's going to be too hard. And that's the problem for a lot of people. A lot of people understand the teachings of Al-Mudaththir, but they don't enjoy the perks of Al-Muzammil, or to put that in the easiest of terms. Surat Muzammil are a bunch of perks, things for you, things that will warm your heart and open up your spirit and make you feel better, make you feel happier about what you are and what you're doing, and give you that connection and that clarity that you require. If you don't get that piece, then you're just stuck with the burden, just stuck with the standard that's not easy to commit to, and that's a lot. That's the struggle of a lot of Muslims today, where they have one thing but they don't have the other. So that's why we spent a reasonable or excessive amount of time talking about Surat Muzammil. I was very slow in reciting it, so if you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to the 4 sessions that it took to go for it. We're going to start with Surat Mudaththir. It's one of my all-time favorites. Of course, the whole Quran is beautiful, and I love all the Quran, but you're allowed to have a surah that you enjoy more than others. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and the scholars often would talk about their favorite. I love Surat Mudaththir. I absolutely adore it. Everything in it is beautiful, and it's the stories, and it's a masterpiece. It's a piece of art. Like everything, it walks you through Yeah, it's like a symphony. It just goes through all of these different things all in a row. And if you allow it, if you listen to it when you're reciting it, it captivates you. It captivates you. It's just like a roller coaster of teachings and stories and concepts, and it takes you to Yawm al-Qiyamah, it takes you back again. It's just very, very powerful. So inshallah, we'll enjoy it together. We'll start with it just to get. So again, I explained this over the last number of weeks. Al-Mudathir is an early surah amongst the first 5. Where exactly it falls in the first 5, scholars differ upon, it doesn't matter. But amongst the first 5 before the long pause. There was a 6-month pause, as more scholars point out, that happened of wahi, where revelation stopped and Jibreel stopped coming. He stopped doing anything for a long time until he came back with وَالضُّحَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Like your Lord did not forget about you, right? But before that, for a while, the Prophet ﷺ wasn't getting anything. He was not receiving anything. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the 5 surahs and said, here, go, learn, focus on them. Amongst those 5 that he focused on, Al-Alaq, Al-Qalam, Al-Fatiha, and these 2, Al-Muzammil, Al-Mudathir, which gives them that degree of importance, and it's absolutely worth your time to reflect upon. So we'll start with them, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها المدثر. So in its origin, it's al-Mutadathir, similar to what we talked about at the beginning of the last surah. It's al-Mutazammil, so the one who requested something. Al-Mutadathir, the person who covered himself or requested to be covered. Al-Mutazammil, also covering, but like as I said, more intimate covering. The one who requested to be covered or covered himself. But in Arabic, sometimes when the ta is close to the enunciation point, articulation point of the letter after it, they'll fuse them together. The Arab do this all the time. The Quran is filled with this stuff. So instead of saying al-Mutazammil, al-Muzzammil. So the zai has a shadda on it. It didn't. Al-Mutazammil, the zai does not have a shadda on it. You have 2 mutaza, and it's but here, nope, we just get rid of the ta and give the zai a shadda. Al-Muzzammil. Same thing. Instead of saying al-Mutadathir, so the dal just has a fatha on it. We get rid of the ta and just put a shadda on the dal. Al-Mudathir. Right? And the Arab do this all the time. And it's just a way of speech. Right. قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَاهْجُرْ وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ وَلِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ. One of the earliest verses in the Quran that came with direct commands, one after the other, with no timing between, with no explanation, with nothing, just command after command. You can hear the harmony of the verses. This is something that what the Sahaba listened to early on. It's what Quraysh heard early on that was captivating to them, that was interesting to them, that struck fear in them because of what it sounded like and how it was. Surah Al-Mudathir is absolutely one of the surahs that threw them off, because this was different. This wasn't poetry, yet it was as beautiful, if not more. It was extremely clear cut. It was very direct. It was of high value. It was of great ethics, and it sounded beautiful. And that's why they got scared of it. You only fight something that you think is worth fighting. Forgive me. If someone is bringing nonsense, you don't waste any time with it. Like if someone comes in and starts saying nonsense, I don't waste time in trying to tell people to watch out for this person or not to listen to him or respond to this person, what they're saying. Why? Because it's nonsense. I don't care. Like, no one is going to listen to this stuff. But when they heard these things, يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر. What is this? No, this is a problem. This is going to absolutely captivate some people. Why? Because they were captivated themselves. So they know if they, with their level of intellect, their level of status, like the leaders of Quraysh were not idiots. Like the guy we're going to talk about, if we have time today, which is the Walid al-Mughira, was not an idiot. This guy this guy is very intelligent. If you attended my first Seerah course, I talk about some of the leaders of the Arab back then. These people were not just a bunch of buffoons. No. These were well-educated, charismatic, intelligent political leaders. They knew their stuff. They knew their history. They knew their culture. They knew how to control the crowds and how to influence others. So when they heard this, they knew they were in trouble. Their problem was deciding that they didn't want to give it a chance. Like, their problem was with objectivity, with to listen to it and see. They just saw it as a threat, as a competition. They decided that that's how they're going to deal with it for different reasons that will, you'll hear the different reasons as we go along or in different sessions as well. But that's how they dealt with it. Instead of some of them obviously got over their egos and decided to actually give it a chance and then accepted Islam, which is why a lot of the leaders later on accepted Islam. Some of them accepted Islam early. But many of them didn't, and it wasn't because of the fact that it didn't make sense. It's because they were so threatened by it. Like, they had spent so many years building their stature and their status and their work, and now this guy who was never on the radar of a political threat or a social threat is spitting out truth. That is absolutely amazing. It's just too much, and they don't know what to do with it. So they fought it. And that when someone's fighting something really hard, that they have a lot of doubts about it, or it's causing them a lot of difficulty. And I see sometimes people who are, obsessed about fighting a certain concept. I'm like, yeah, Habibi, the reason you're doing this is because you yourself you're struggling with it. If you are content with your belief and where you were, you wouldn't be so upset about what they're saying. But because you're not content, because you actually feel a little bit insecure about it, you fight back. And you'll see this in life a lot. Those who push back really aggressively against something are usually insecure about it. Like, they have their own insecurity. And Quraysh, they fought him back, alayhi salam, so aggressively because they were so insecure about what he was saying. Because they knew this stuff is the real deal. Listen to these 7 verses. These 7 verses are, these 7 commands are timeless. They are, relevant in every scenario. They're relevant in every situation, all circumstances. They came at the beginning of Islam. They were relevant throughout the timing of the Prophet ﷺ's life, at the end of his life, and his early. Today, to the day of judgment, these commands will continue to be timeless and priceless. And there's something to watch out for at the beginning first. That both these surahs, the Prophet ﷺ was called by the relevance of that first night, right? Both these surahs start with a calling upon him ﷺ that is relevant to the first night of Islam, the initiation of our deen, and both are followed with the same word. Okay? Both are followed with the word qum, which is just take a stand or get up. You need to get up, not physically. Because we know that now, because obviously it's not about the physical standing up. It's the figurative standing up, which is taking a stand, which is not sitting back, which is not being content, which is not being okay with the status quo, which is not accepting things as they are, but rather identifying that change is needed, reform is required, and qum, and getting up, get up. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling upon people. Enough, up, on your feet. You've been sleeping out of it long enough, get up now. There's work to do. There's more to your life than this. You are more than just this blob of life that eats and sleeps and eats and sleeps. There's more to this. Get up. So he's told qum in the first one, but that qiyam is for you. Qum, so that you can fill yourself, so you can fuel up, so you can get what you need to get out of this for yourself, because there's something in it for you. There's something that's going to absolutely warm your heart and open your mind and give you a status of spirituality, a level of closeness and serenity that you will treasure and love. The second one is qum. The world needs you to get up, and you need to start taking a stand. You can't afford to sit around, and this to me is more, I can't say it's more impactful, but I'm saying this as a personal experience. Don't take this as a mufassir's experience. They're equally important, but I'm taking this as a personal experience of reading these verses as a person, just a common person listening to it. It was very impactful to say that you need to get up because there's more to you. You're required. You have to take a stand. You can't, because I look at him alayhi salam, all his life, he saw what people were doing. It was like, this is garbage. This is absolutely garbage. What are you doing? What are these habits? Shirk, worshipping idols, ongoing killing, no law, zina happening, and war and slavery and alcohol and oppression of the weak and women. Like he's seeing all this, it's garbage. He doesn't like any of it. Like all of it to him is just, he stays away from it. He's not involved in anything. He only gets involved when something is really important. There's a war, he comes and he defends. There's a treaty that shows justice, he'll come and he'll attend. Everything else, he's not involved. He doesn't attend Dar al-Nadwa, he doesn't attend any voting. He's like, all this, the whole system is corrupt. I don't, riba, he doesn't like any of it. He doesn't like any of it, but he distanced himself from it and decided to work with the weak, with the people who needed help. Al-Malhoof, Al-Kal, Al-Faqir, all the people who are just the broken and the distraught and the people who are just not the unwanted, right? He focused his life in taking care of them. He thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. The Quran came and said, no, qum, you need to take a stand. But take a stand. But I'm going to be pushing back against a whole system of people who disagree and are going to push back for personal reasons, and it's all corrupt. And qum, you have to take a stand. وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا فَقَالُوا رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَن نَّدْعُوَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَٰهًا لَقَدْ قُلْنَا إِذًا شَطَطًا هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمُنَا اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً لَوْلَا يَأْتُونَ عَلَيْهِم بِسُلْطَانٍ بَيِّنٍ فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَىٰ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. You recite Surat Al-Kahf every week, and Allah says, and we strengthen their hearts, the Ahl Kahf. That's the story is about Ahl Kahf, right? We strengthened their hearts, إِذْ قَامُوا, when they took a stand. When they finally took a stand. When they said, we're not going to be content with the status quo anymore. Because when you're content, you're complicit. That's one of the this is one of the basic messages of the Quran. If you're content, you're complicit. If you decide that you're going to just sit there and not say anything or do anything, then you're complicit. You're a part of the problem. And you will be held accountable to the level that you were a part of the problem. Like, obviously, you're not equal to the oppressor. Obviously, that's qatl is not equal to the person who watched it. But if you watched it and you did not say anything or do anything or you didn't take a stand, then you are complicit and you're going to be asked about that. And that's a core Islamic value. That's why the concept of qiyam, this word that you follow throughout the Quran, you find it everywhere in the Quran, is a core Islamic value. You have to take a stand. It's not about standing up. If you're going to understand that standing up, it's ridiculous. Obviously, that's not. You can do these things sitting down. Someone who's mashlul can do it. Someone who's paraplegic can do this. It's about taking a stand, and it's understood figuratively, obviously, to be that. But both commands for him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Think about that. He's receiving these surahs. Surah Al-Qalam. When I recited it with you, I told you that's almost no commands at all. It was at the end, fasbir, show perseverance, and it was in a very specific context. The whole surah had no commands, just stories and explanations, right? Surah Al-Fatiha. There's no command. You're told, or you are saying to your ihdina. You're asking Allah to guide you, right? Correct? Surah Al-Alaq, Iqra is the only command. It's not even a fiqhi command. It's more of a mentality of learning, lifelong learning and critical thinking and objectivity. Surah Al-Muzammil, the commands are all for you. They're things that that are beloved to you. Read the Quran, devote yourself, do dhikr, tawakkul, stuff that are going to strengthen your heart and make you happier and more content with your life in general and capable of dealing with difficulties. But qum is the command that you have to get up. It's as if the Prophet ﷺ is sitting there, not happy with everything, focused on his life, kind of staying away. Get up. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's how I imagine it. Get up, you need to get involved. I don't want to get involved. He lived his life. He made a point of not being involved with these people. He made a point of not wanting to be involved with this corruption. Get up. Qum. Twice. Get up. It's as if this monster, I don't say monster, this powerful being is sitting, right? Sitting back, and Allah is saying, get up. It's your time now to get up. And he got up, alayhi salatu wasalam. He got up, and the ummah got up with him. And the world changed because of that standing. Of that stand that he took, alayhi salatu wasalam, changed the face of the earth. Never to be the same, ever again after he did this, alayhi salatu. He took a stand, and that changed everything. Right? He's just one person who made a decision. Qum. He was told divinely to get up, and he did, alayhi salatu wasalam. And that's the importance of this. That's the first command. Qum. You need to take a stand. You can't afford not to. You can't afford to be on the sidelines. You can't afford to be neutral. You can't afford to be. You're complicit if you are. You're complicit if you are. And this is hard. Oh my God, this is hard. Because sometimes taking a stand is complicated. Sometimes taking a stand is a complicated thing because sometimes you're seeing mistakes from the people you love, the people that you see yourself to be a part of or close with. And taking a stand is hard to do and it takes a lot of wisdom, it's difficult. But at the end, you are required as a Muslim to take a stand. You have to stand for something. What do you stand? What does your life stand for? What are you important? Like what level of importance do you carry in your life? All right, we'll go for Salat Adhan Isha. We'll continue inshallah after Salat Isha. The first command that we talked about is Qum. Take a stand. That's number one. Number two, فَأَنذِرْ. And some people will argue that the fa means that this command is connected to the first one. No. Because he could have easily told him immediately, أَنذِرْ. He didn't have to say Qum. And you'd still get the same meaning. That first word is separate. Fa means, as a result of that, you're going to take all these other ones. So he's starting with Qum as take a stand, and then because of that, all these other commands are going to result, but it's not the same command. Right? They're separate because because easily the command could have been without the Qum at the beginning, and the meaning of Anzir would have been appropriate. And the word Anzir means to carry the warning, spread the message. Number two, Anzir. Al-Inzar is to warn people, to offer them the warning. Here is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. That's our job. That's all it ever was. My job is not to force this upon others. My job is not to judge people where they will, in terms of where they're going, if they accept it or they don't. Our job is to offer the warning that the teachings carry. Here's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this behavior. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the consequence will be for this behavior. Do with this information whatever you will. It's up to you. My job is to let you know that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Indar, that's it. You accept it, you don't accept it, you live by it or you don't, that's up to you. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does with you and for you in this life and the hereafter has nothing to do with me. And it's not my job to engage in that conversation. Unfortunately, we get a little bit too caught up with this piece. What's going to happen? It's none of my business what's going to happen to someone who doesn't respond to us being taught or does respond to us being taught. I don't know. It's not my problem. My issue is I take this as a warning for myself and I live that way. I believe what he's saying. I live by it and I offer it to those who are willing to listen. The indhar. Here's the warning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. That if you live against his teachings, if you decide to ignore all of it, if you don't make the right choices, then there is a punishment that is attached to that, and you will miss out on the beauty that he has promised you, and that you are destined to receive and be a part of. That's my job, is to warn. You can say, well, why use the word warn? Why not use the word offer glad tidings or whatnot? No, you have to warn. You don't want me to tell you, like if you're going to another country and I fail to tell you that if you drive, if you don't make any mistakes in driving, they're going to give you they'll give you $100 at the end. If I don't tell you that and you end up getting it, it's a nice surprise. It's no big deal. You won't be happy, but it's not a big deal. But if I fail to tell you that if you go over the limit by 5, you'll be in jail for 5 years, and I forget to tell you that, you're not going to be happy if you end up in that position. Like you will not accept the excuse from me if I fail to tell you of a negative consequence that can occur. But you'll forgive me if I forget to tell you about a positive consequence that will occur if you do well. Like both I should do. Like I'm wrong if I forget to say it, but one is more prioritized and it has a higher priority than the other for sure. So that's why the Quran starts with the Prophet Al-Mudathir. He's also Bashir, but he has to start with Indar. Because if I don't tell you that there's Jannah waiting for you, you may forgive if you make it there. But if I forget to tell you that there's Jahannam, then that's a completely different story. You're like, no, this is not fair. I was not told that if I made these mistakes, I'm going there. I would have lived differently if you said that. I may not have lived differently if you told me, if it's neutral, if after you die it's either neutrality or Jannah, you may say, you know what, I'm happy with this. I hit the jackpot here, I'm glad, I don't need. But if I tell you, no, at the end it's Jahannam as well, okay, that changes things here. No, I can't, no, I don't want that. So it's a different, the human brain and the human psyche functions differently based on that. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses فَأَنذِرْ. Not because we are a negative ummah. Not because, no, it's because it makes no other sense. It doesn't make sense not to do that first. And then after you warn, you offer the glad tidings. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he offers the warning and the glad tidings. If you do well, this is what you get. If you don't do well, this is what. But Anzir is the symbol of, in these verses, because you can see it's very concise. The commands are not fleshed out. with a lot of explanation of what they mean. They're just very concise words, and they work like, they have a rhythm to them, right? So the Mudathir is easy surah to memorize and read. It just has this very beat-like rhythm, just one after the other. Very simple. You know what he means. Qum, you know what that means. Fa'andir, start spreading. You know what that means. I have to start carrying this and say, this is what he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining. Do with this what you will, but I have to tell this to you. And then you will be held to this, however. That's number 2. Number 3, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. Magnify your Lord. Kabbir Rabbak. What is that? This is the piece where show him the respect that he deserves, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way you speak, in the way you behave, in how you live your life. فَكَبِّرْ رَبَّكَ. This is different than what Surat Muzammil talked about. وَذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ. That's very personal. You invocate the name of your Lord, something that's close to your heart and close to your, to your soul. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ means you live a life where you magnify Allah. You magnify your Lord. You magnify His teachings. You magnify His name. You magnify His way of life. You takbir. Any human being or any Muslim who does not have ta'zeem of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his heart, does not have the understanding of magnifying and exalting his Lord, will not go far. It's one of the main differences that we have with other faiths in general, in my experience, and practically speaking, with those who don't obviously believe in God altogether, clearly. But even from other faiths, there's a big difference in how we magnify our Lord and how they do. And the word Rabbak here is a very, the name Rabb is one of the names of ease, one of the names of beauty. Right? Because it's Murabbi is the one who raises and takes care of people, a caregiver. So Rabbak is not really your Lord, it's your caregiver. So as for your caregiver, fakabbir, magnify him. You live your life with the intention of doing that, of magnifying the name of your Lord in everything that you do. That's the goal, that's the intention, that's what you're trying to achieve. Takbirullah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'zeemullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you don't have that mentality, a lot gets lost, and people, you can do a good deed, but then there's a missing link that will be obvious in the way that you speak and the way that you go by. Our goal is to magnify Allah, magnify our Lord in everything that we do. I spent time talking in my life, debating or chatting or discussing with people with different faiths, and what stands out to me still today, from everything that we did, is their understanding of God. It's a very poor comprehension of Him. I don't blame the people that are listening to these pastors speak for not wanting to hear it. Because I don't even think the person who is speaking has the correct comprehension of who God is to begin with. Like, they would say things that would cause me to cringe. Like I would physically cringe because they said something like, oh my God, how did you say that? Like that. Like, he didn't mean to be rude. It's just his understanding, and they're pastors like of different denominations of faiths, without pointing out one or specific. And I remember he told me the story that it wasn't a story, but he gave this example. He was a veteran priest, like he's been talking for years, and he had talked to me about extremism, like in general. Obviously, that's my topic, yeah. Extremism is their interest of talking with me, so we're talking a little bit. This was like at a not a convention, but a city gathering. I don't know. I was there. I shouldn't be there, but I was there. And he came up and he chatted. So we're chatting a little bit about this, and I'm talking about he's talking about extremism in his faith, hoping that I will comment on mine. If I did, like I made his life easier. And I told him that ISIS wasn't good, but So among the things he's telling me about his faith, he's saying, like, we have these people, who worship, they go and they stand on one foot, for God for like 18 hours, or they don't eat, or they do some, and he's like, and God is sitting up there, and he hit his head and saying, and it just like, La ilaha illallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not do that, he wouldn't speak like that, he doesn't, like I wanted to correct him, and he said, no, that's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ever respond to someone doing this, but that's how he understands God. God is just another guy who gets frustrated, and hits his forehead, and what's wrong with these people? That's how they see it. Jalla Jalaluhu, subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You see, even like, A'udhu Billah, you shouldn't tell the story. Like, because it's not what your understanding of God, even as the simplest understanding of a Muslim of Allah is better than, wallahi, people who study, who are doctors of theology in their religions. Because they just don't understand the divine. They don't understand the divine, subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't have the right ta'zeem of Him. And because of that, they don't hold themselves to His standards. They don't follow follow his teachings, they don't feel the same way. The reason that there's such a difference in terms of the dedication that Muslims have to their faith versus other faiths, right? And what the world wants, they want religious people, but they want chilled religious people. Like totally chilled, like completely chilled out, where it's just, yeah, religion's good. Go once a week, just, attend the stuff, call you. Just don't make a big deal. Don't actually take it seriously. Like, don't really listen to everything. That's what we want. We want people who are religious, but not really. Enough to be spiritual, but not really. Enough not to be too scared of death, but not really. But they want the form of religion that allows the status quo to continue, that allows whatever politicians want to do, and to keep people nice and quiet and happy. That's what they want, and that's what they got. This is what they got. They got it. They have it. They have it from even from us. They got all the scholars that they want to say what they want, and things are going well. But when you read the Quran, you actually read it. You read it without a political agenda, because we're not trying to become extremists on any side. Actually read what's being said. No, you're stuck with this spirit of reform, of strength, of taking a stand, of changing your ways and changing the ways of the world around you that are not beneficial to others, and not standing down or getting scared because someone with power is opposing you or is pointing. This is what Islam gives you, and that scares the living out of them. It scares them because they don't want someone like that. They don't want someone who is going to stand there with his finger like, no, you're full of it. You're a thief, and you're a liar, and I'm not scared of you. That's a dangerous man. That's a dangerous human being. Someone who doesn't fear them, doesn't fear what they can do, and will stand there, and his life is less valuable than the values and the standards that he lives for. That's a problem for any government. They want to neutralize those people. They want the nice, timid, house cats. Maybe a scratch every once in a while, but nothing major. A little slap, keep them quiet. But a person who actually knows what's right and wrong, and that's why qum at the beginning. Get up. Khalas. No more. You don't sit down anymore. You don't stand down. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never did. Right? You look at his life, he never stood down again for the rest of his life. And that's what made this ummah, and he bred leaders who were fearless leaders who didn't fear, were not scared. The story of the Bedouin man, Al-Rabi', who would walk into the court of Kisra, right, with his Bedouin shoes and his Bedouin dress and his little ridiculous looking amongst people who are lavished in their right, and telling him, "جئنا لنخرج العباد من عبادة العباد إلى عبادة رب العباد." I am here to remove these people from worshiping people to worshiping the Lord of people. وإني أتيتك بأناس يحبون الموت كما تحب الحياة. And I brought you people who love to die just like you love to live. خلاص. You're going to win. You're going to win because what you believe in is more valuable than your life. What you believe in, what you stand for, is more valuable than living on. That changes the equation, changes everything. And you can't fake that, right? And you can't make it up, and you can't beat it unless you have the same feeling. Most people don't feel like that. They just want to live. They don't care. They just want to live. However, whatever life, just living. It doesn't matter. Life that has purpose, has meaning, has integrity, has nothing. They don't care. Just live. You are absolutely not that. You are absolutely not someone who's going to do that. You will live only when life is worth living, the way you know life should be lived. And you will live it the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to live it, and no one is going to force you to do it otherwise. And if that's going to require you to lose your privileges, to lose your wealth, then you will lose it. Right? وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. That is the biggest thing. The most magnificent thing is your Lord. Nothing is above him. So you will give nothing else importance. Nothing else will have significance similar to him. No one else's teachings or reminders or nadhir will scare you more than his. So he comes first and his teachings come first. That is what this means. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. You'll take that first. That will be what you listen to first. Everything else comes second and third and fourth and may not even come at all. It doesn't even mean anything to you. So number one, qum, you take that stand. فَأَنذِرْ, start telling people what he's teaching. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, and make that your priority. Make what he's teaching your priority in terms of how you do it. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. And now a complete 180. right? These very high-level ethical commands that are based, that are rooted in values and rooted in purpose and in meaningfulness in life. And as for your garments, tahir, clean them. Make sure that you dress clean. So what does this have to do? Yeah, it does. It's all a part of the same story. Because you can't do this filthy. Because you can't do this if you're not presentable. Because people won't listen to this or understand it or care for it if you don't know how to present yourself to them. If your clothes are filthy, then they're not. You have to fatahir. You need to thiyabak, right? It's hard to argue that this verse is spiritual or figurative. It's hard. Because he used a word that is so, some scholars do, like I won't lie to you, some scholars say that this is talking about, but it's very hard to make that argument. It's so difficult because he used a word that has no, that the Arab never used figuratively. A thiyab, which is garments and clothing, the Arabs never used this figuratively to talk about something else. Yeah, thiyab was thiyab, it was clothing. So to say he meant to cleanse the soul, and he used that word, I don't know. It just doesn't work. Like it has so many flaws, that argument. Again, it's an understanding of some of the scholars, and rahimahumullah, and they could be, they're more knowledgeable than me, so I'm not. But I'm just saying, I don't feel that to be the. I see that the dynamic nature of these 6, 7 commands are to be diverse, to talk about high-level ethics, and then focus even on presentation. It's not enough just for you to take a stand that is meaningful, to spread the message, and to make your Lord your priority, so you live the way He says, not in fear of anyone else. That you also have to do it with a clean set of shoes. Like you have to get out there, you have to be clean. If you're standing there and you smell and you stink and you're not dressed, people don't care for what you have to say. They're not going to listen to you. So representation is important, which is why this whole juz'ah, to a certain degree, is about representation, not because of this verse specifically, but because of how every surah seems to care about how you are representing things, and how it's important to understand representation. And if you don't represent it appropriately, if your thiyab are not tahir, if you're dressed in filth, and thiyabaka fatahir could also mean that you halal, that you're dressed in, but you can't take that meaning as the only meaning. So when you dress your clothing, it has to be clean from haram money, and clean from filth on it, and so you can present yourself with cleanliness, because cleanliness is an important piece of human behavior. This is back in the 7th century. Do you understand how hard it was to keep things clean? There was no soap, ya akhi. Soap didn't exist. Imagine this. No soap at all. Nowhere. That's it. You just have certain types of trees with leaves that you can use, and they sting your skin and they leave. They're not fun to use. To stay clean and to smell nice was one heck of an endeavor. Like that took a lot out of you as a person. Like you had to put in time to make sure that was going to happen. Very difficult. And yet the Prophet ﷺ, when he is described, قال ما لبس رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثيابا رثة قط. He never wore bad clothing ever. It was never expensive clothing, but it was always good. It was always looked. He was stylish, alayhi salatu wasalam. I'm not like this at all. Like if it was up to me, I would be here in a bag. Like it was my wife dresses me, or else I look horrible. He, alayhi salam, he was stylish. He knew how to dress. He wore good clothing, alayhi salam. Not expensive. He didn't spend money on it, but he وَكَانَ يُشَمُّ مِنْهُ رِيحُ الطِّيبِ alayhi salam. He always smelled good. Always. It's impossible. I've been up since 7 o'clock. You want to keep this. Keep this. It's for your own sake. You're not going to want to do anything different. He always smelled well, alayhi salam. Think about this concept that no one ever sat beside him, alayhi salam, and felt. He always smelled well. He always dressed well, alayhi salam. Right? We don't think about that. Of course, you live in you have a wardrobe that is bigger than all of Ahl Medina had back then, right? And you have all these sprays that you can just keep on. You can spray yourself up and down, and you can smell. They had nothing. That was difficult to achieve, and he achieved it, alayhi salam, because it was an early command, and because it was a mentality that no, it's not enough just to believe in something, stand for something, feel something. You also have to be presentable. It also has to be presentable. If you can't present it, then you can't. The concept of people who are in sales understand what I'm saying. Like you have a great product, but if you don't know how to market it, if you don't know how to represent it, no, people aren't going to listen to it. And then this very, very valuable. How many products historically have gone And we lost the ability to benefit from them for decades because whoever was responsible representing it didn't do a good job. It took decades for it to circulate back into mainstream and actually become, and we lost all this time that people could have actually benefited from. Why? Just because we didn't properly represent it. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ. And every sinful act, every act that is seen as filthy or disgusting or sinful or harmful or beneath the standard of good behavior, fahjur, leave that, walk away from that. Don't be associated with any of rujz. The word rujz is a very dynamic word that is a blanket term that you can use to describe any behavior that is just lowly. It's low life behavior, anything at all. Whether it's losing your temper, gossip, zina, shirk, all of these things that people, like the good nature of human beings would look like and say, that is not good. Like I do it, but it's not good. We know that. Even people who sit down and smoke, they know it's not good. They smoke anyways, but they know it's not good. Those who drink, they drink, but they don't know. Why? Because because you have to have a legal age to do it, right? Because you don't want your kids to do it. If it's so good, then we all know what's good and what's not good. Even those who perform these actions, we don't want them because we know they're not good. Any form of drugs, even marijuana, we don't want it because we know it's not good, but we do it anyways. So Allah is being telling, وَالرُّجْزِ, anything that is low life behavior that is not khayr, fahjur, you leave all that. Now you're taking it, you have to leave all of these behaviors as a Muslim. This timeless commands. You can live by this. You can take the first 7 verses of Surat Al-Mudathir and live your life, and you don't need anything else. Wallahi, you won't require anything else. You don't need to listen to more. And that's what the Sahaba, that's why the transition of their character happened so quickly. Right? It didn't take 23 years for them. No, the early Sahaba, they were fine. Within a year, you saw it was a different type of people, a different quality of human beings immediately. Because all they needed was this. خلاص قم أنذر ربك فكبر ثيابك فطهر رجز فهجر. They didn't understand. They understand. We are going to stand for something. We stay away from all bad behaviors. I'm going to change all of my bad habits, all my bad gatherings. Done. No more. It's rujz. It's something that is low, something that is negative. I'm not going to be involved in that anymore. وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. And never ever remind people of your favor. If you give or if you help, you are not asking for anything in return. You do it selflessly. You do it. Tamnun is where you ask people, where you remind someone of your favor on them. Tastakthir, asking for more appreciation or more recognition. You don't do that. You give selflessly, you walk away. You do the khair and you leave. You drop it and you walk away. You don't want anyone to recognize it, appreciate it, pay you for it, reward you for it, nothing. You just do the good and you leave. Because that's what you're here for. You are here to do that. La tamnun tastakthir. Just don't do any of it. Don't do a favor and then ask for a favor. No, you do a favor and you walk away as if you didn't do it. And then وَلِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ. And for the sake of your Lord, persevere on this path. For His sake, persevere, because this is going to be very hard. You're going to have to bring like a lot of perseverance with you because this is a lot of work. قُمْ and أَنذِرْ and رَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ and ثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. This is hard stuff, so you have to bring with that perseverance and resilience. You do it for the sake of Allah, because no one else is worthy of you making all of these sacrifices and making all of these changes in your life, of taking that stand, of carrying this message, of prioritizing the teachings of your Lord, of cleansing your clothes, of making sure you're presentable, of doing good and never looking back and never asking for anything in return. This is a lot of where you need to have the intention of persevering for the sake of Allah to keep on doing it. And that's what they did. That is what they did. They lived their lives that way. Radiallahu anhum. From day one. It's almost like, what was the rest of the Quran going to come and do? Well, when you read these verses, like, what is the rest of the Quran going to talk about? Because khalas, everything's been explained to you. Here's how you're going to live your life. Live it that way, and you won't regret it. And they didn't, and we won't either, if you understand. I'll end with that, inshallah. We'll continue next week. Subhanakallah. Inshallah, next week, we'll start after Aisha, just to make everyone's life easier. The brother will make the khatira a bit shorter, and we'll start.